Harry Potter and the Secret Room. Hello, everyone. Today, we will read the Harry Potter, The Secret Room. If you want to know this story, stay with me until the end. Let's do it. Chapter 1. A Very Bad Summer. Harry Potter was back at number 4 Privet Drive. This was the house of his aunt, uncle, and cousin. Their names were Aunt Petunia, Uncle Vernon, and Dudley. For Harry, the summer holidays were very long and very boring. He missed his school, Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry. Hogwarts was his real home. He missed his two best friends, Ron Weasley and Hermione Granger. He missed magic. At the Dursleys' house, he was not allowed to talk about magic. He was not allowed to do magic. He had to do many chores. He cooked breakfast, lunch, and dinner. He cleaned the house. He cut the grass. His room was small and dark. It had a small bed and a spider in the corner. His cousin Dudley was big and loud. He had a new computer and many toys. He always ate a lot of cakes and ice cream. He was not kind to Harry. Every day was the same. Harry felt very sad and lonely. He looked at the calendar on his wall. He counted the days until September the 1st. September the 1st was the day he could go back to Hogwarts. One evening, Harry was in his room. He was reading a school book. It was a book about magical animals. He saw a picture of a phoenix. It was a beautiful red bird. It made him think of his headmaster, Albus Dumbledore. Dumbledore had a phoenix. Suddenly, there was a loud pop sound. A strange creature was now in Harry's room. It was small, about 3 feet tall. It had very big green eyes and big bat-like ears. It was wearing an old pillowcase. It looked like a small, sad doll. The creature looked at Harry and spoke in a high voice. "Harry Potter," it said, "such an honor it is to meet you." Harry was very surprised. "Who are you?" he asked. "My name is Dobby, sir. I am a house elf." Harry did not know what a house elf was. He looked at the small creature. "It is nice to meet you. But why are you here?" Dobby's big eyes filled with tears. "Harry Potter must not be angry with Dobby. Dobby has come to warn you. You must not go back to Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry this year." Harry was shocked. "Not go back to Hogwarts? But why? It's my home. It's the best place in the world for me." Dobby began to cry. He hit his head with his hand. Bad Dobby," he shouted. "Stop, please don't do that," said Harry. He felt confused and worried. "Why can't I go back to Hogwarts?" "There is a danger," Dobby whispered. His eyes were wide with fear. "A great danger is coming to the school this year. Harry Potter must be safe. He must stay here, where it is safe." But for Harry, the Dursleys' house was not safe. It was a prison. Hogwarts was the only place where he was happy and free. "I'm sorry, Dobby," Harry said firmly, "but I am going back to Hogwarts. It is my home." Dobby looked at Harry with a very sad face. Then his eyes moved to Harry's schoolbook on the floor. "Harry Potter is too great, too good to lose," Dobby said slowly. "If Harry Potter does not promise to stay here, Dobby will have to stop him." And with those words, Dobby picked up Harry's schoolbook. There was another loud pop, and the little house elf was gone. Harry sat on his bed. He felt very worried. What danger was coming to Hogwarts? And how could a small house elf stop him from going to school? He looked out of his small window at the dark, starry sky. He knew this was going to be a very difficult summer. Chapter 2. The Rescue. Days passed after Dobby's visit. Harry was very unhappy. Uncle Vernon was angry because a big client was coming for dinner. Aunt Petunia cooked a big, expensive meal. Harry had to help in the kitchen. The doorbell rang. Uncle Vernon opened the door. A large, fat man with a big smile walked in. His name was Mr. Mason. His wife was with him. They were the important clients. During dinner, Harry had to stay in his room. He was not allowed to meet the guests. He sat on his bed and listened to the sounds from downstairs. He could hear laughter and the clinking of glasses. Suddenly, he heard a loud noise from outside. Crash! Then, another noise. Bang! Harry jumped from his bed and looked out the window. His heart beat fast. What was happening? Downstairs, the dinner party stopped. Uncle Vernon's face was red and angry. He went to the window to look outside. Then, something amazing happened. Iron bars on Harry's window began to appear. Someone was putting bars on his window. Harry was trapped in his room like a prisoner. He heard a voice from outside. Harry! Harry! He looked through the bars. There, outside his window, was a flying car. And in the car were Ron Weasley and his twin brothers, Fred and George. Ron was in the front seat. Hello, Harry, he said with a big smile. What's going on? Why are you not answering our letters? Harry was so happy to see his friend. Letters? I didn't get any letters from you. Fred laughed. So that's why you didn't write back. George pointed at the bars. Why are you in a cage, Harry? Someone put bars on my window, Harry said. I think it was a house elf named Dobby. He didn't want me to go back to school. Ron looked confused. A house elf? Never mind that now. We're here to rescue you. Get your trunk and your owl, Hedwig. Harry quickly took his school trunk and Hedwig's cage. But there was a problem. The trunk was big and heavy. How could they get it through the window bars? No problem, said Fred. He took a long rope from the car. Tie this to your trunk. Harry tied the rope to his trunk. Fred and George pulled the trunk through the bars. It was magic. The trunk went through the bars like they weren't there. Then it was Harry's turn. But as he started to climb out, he got stuck. His jeans were caught on a piece of the window. Downstairs, Uncle Vernon was very angry. He shouted, "What is that noise? I'm going to check on the boy." Harry heard heavy footsteps on the stairs. His uncle was coming. Quick, pull, Harry shouted. Ron and the twins pulled Harry hard. Rip! Harry's jeans tore, but he was free. He jumped into the car next to Ron. Just then, Uncle Vernon opened the door to Harry's room. His mouth opened wide. He saw Harry in a flying car with 3 red-haired boys. You! Uncle Vernon shouted. What are you doing? Come back here. Goodbye, Uncle Vernon, Harry shouted happily. See you next summer. The flying car went up, up, up into the sky. Privet Drive became smaller and smaller below them. Harry felt free and happy for the first time all summer. The wind was in his hair. The stars were bright above them. He was with his best friend. Thanks for saving me, Harry said to Ron. Ron smiled. That's what friends are for. Now let's go home. My mum is making dinner. I hope it's not corned beef. Harry laughed. He was going to the burrow, the Weasley's house. He was going to see his magical family. It was the best feeling in the world. Chapter 3. The Burrow and the Train. The flying car flew through the night sky. Harry felt wonderful. He was free from the Dursleys. Below them, little lights from houses and cars looked like stars on the ground. After some time, Ron said, We're almost there. Look. The car went down towards a small farm. In the middle of the fields, there was a house. But what a strange house it was. It looked like it was made from several houses stacked on top of each other. Some parts were crooked. It had 4 or 5 chimneys. Outside, there was a chicken coop and an old garage. This was the burrow, the Weasleys' home. "It's not much," Ron said, looking a little shy. "I think it's brilliant," Harry said, with a real smile. It was the most interesting house he had ever seen. The car landed softly near the garage. The door of the house opened, and a short, kind-looking woman with red hair ran out. It was Mrs. Weasley. She looked very worried. "Ron, Fred, George, you foolish boys," she cried, but then she hugged them tightly. She saw Harry, and her face became soft. "Oh, Harry, dear, we were so worried when you didn't write back. Come in, come in. You must be hungry." Inside, the burrow was even more amazing. The kitchen was small but cozy. A pot was stirring itself on the stove. Knives were cutting vegetables by themselves. Photos on the walls moved. A clock didn't show the time, but showed where each family member was. Home, school, work, or lost. Harry met Ginny, Ron's little sister. She had red hair like the others. When she saw Harry, her face turned very red, and she quickly ran upstairs. Harry was confused. "Don't worry," Ron whispered. "She's been talking about you all summer. I think she has a crush on you." The next few days were the happiest Harry could remember. Helped de-gnome the garden. The gnomes were small, ugly creatures that you had to spin around and throw out. He played chess with Ron. The chess pieces shouted advice and cried when they were taken. He ate delicious meals with the whole noisy Weasley family. Finally, it was September 1st. Time to go to Hogwarts. At King's Cross Station, they all stood in front of the barrier between platforms 9 and 10. To get to the secret platform 9 3/4, you had to walk straight through this solid wall. "Arthur and I will go first with Ginny," said Mrs. Weasley. "See you on the other side." One by one, the Weasley boys ran through the barrier and disappeared. Soon, only Harry and Ron were left. "Let's go together," Ron said. They started running towards the barrier. But something was wrong. Halfway there, they crashed into the solid wall and fell back. They couldn't get through. They saw the train start to move on the other side of the wall. They were stuck in the normal world. Ron had a crazy idea. "The flying car. Dad left it in the garage. We can fly it to Hogwarts." It was a dangerous and stupid plan, but they had no choice. They ran back to the car, which was parked nearby. They got in, and Ron started the engine. The car rose into the London sky. The flight was long and scary. They almost hit a plane. Ron couldn't control the car very well. It was getting dark when they finally saw Hogwarts Castle in the distance. But then more problems came. The car started to lose power. It was falling from the sky. "We're going to crash!" Harry shouted. The car fell faster and faster. It hit a tall, old tree on the school grounds. There was a loud crack as a big branch broke. The car finally stopped, hanging in the tree. Harry and Ron were shaking, but okay. They got out of the car and stood on the branch. But then, the car came to life. It started the engine, pushed them out, and fell to the ground. Then, it drove away by itself into the dark forest. It was gone. Harry and Ron stood alone in the rain. They were wet, tired, and in big trouble. They looked at the huge, lit-up castle. They were at Hogwarts, but their adventure had just begun. Chapter 4: Trouble and a New Teacher. The great wooden door of Hogwarts Castle opened. There stood Professor McGonagall. She looked very angry. Her mouth was a thin line. "Potter, Weasley," she said in a cold voice. "Follow me." They walked silently through the big halls. The castle was the same as Harry remembered. Tall ceilings, moving stairs, and ghosts floating through walls. But tonight it felt different. They were in trouble. They entered Professor McGonagall's office. She turned to them. "Explain yourselves," she said. "Why did you fly a car to school?" "The whole magical world saw you. There was a photo in the Daily Prophet." Ron's face was white. Harry spoke. "Professor, we couldn't get through the barrier at platform 9 3/4. It was closed. We didn't know what else to do." "That is not an excuse for such dangerous behavior," she said. "You are very lucky you weren't seen by Muggles, or worse, killed." She was very disappointed. "You have both lost your house 50 points, and you, Weasley, will have a detention for using illegal magic." Just then, the door opened. A man with long black hair and a hooked nose entered. It was Professor Snape, the potions teacher. He looked at Harry with a cold smile. He was happy that Harry was in trouble. "Ah, the celebrities have arrived," he said in his smooth, quiet voice. "Flying cars. How dramatic." Professor McGonagall sent Harry and Ron to the Great Hall to get some food. On their way, they saw moving water on the stone floor. It was writing a message. "The Chamber of Secrets has been opened. Enemies of the air, beware." Harry didn't understand what it meant, but he felt a cold fear. The next day, school started. It was good to see Hermione again. She was angry with them for flying the car, but happy they were safe. Their first class was Defense Against the Dark Arts. Everyone was excited to meet the new teacher. The door opened and a man walked in. He had wavy blonde hair and bright blue eyes. He wore beautiful robes of deep purple. He smiled, showing very white teeth. "Good morning," he said in a loud, clear voice. "I am Gilderoy Lockhart, Order of Merlin. 3rd class, honorary member of the Dark Force Defense League and 5-time winner of Witch Weekly's Most Charming Smile Award." He smiled again. Many girls in the class sighed. Hermione looked very interested. "But I don't talk about that," he continued. "I am here to teach you how to defend yourselves against dark creatures." He pointed to a large cage covered with a cloth. "Today we will face Cornish pixies." He pulled off the cloth. Inside the cage were many small, bright blue creatures with sharp teeth. They were making loud, angry noises. Lockhart opened the cage. "Let's see how you handle them." It was a big mistake. The pixies flew out of the cage like blue lightning. They grabbed books and bags. They threw ink bottles. They pulled students' hair. One pixie took Neville's wand and threw it out the window. The class was chaos. Students were screaming and hiding under desks. "Come on now," Lockhart shouted, waving his wand. "They're only pixies. Just do this. Pesca pixie pester nomi." Nothing happened. The pixies now took Lockhart by his arms and legs and hung him on a high lamp. Harry, Ron, and Hermione ducked under a desk. "Only pixies," Ron shouted over the noise. "He's a complete idiot." Hermione looked at Lockhart hanging from the lamp. She still looked a little impressed. "Oh, I'm sure he has a plan." "He has no plan," Harry said, as a pixie threw his textbook into the air. At the end of the class, Lockhart was still hanging. The pixies were still destroying the room. The three friends ran out quickly. That evening, in the common room, Ron shook his head. He's famous for books about his adventures, but he can't even handle pixies. Hermione was reading one of Lockhart's books. He must be brave to have done all these things. Maybe it was just a bad day. Harry looked out the window at the dark grounds. He thought about the message on the floor. The Chamber of Secrets has been opened. He had a bad feeling that this year was going to be very different. Chapter 5. The Voice and the First Attack. Life at Hogwarts continued, but a strange feeling was in the air. Students walked through the halls in small groups, talking in quiet voices. Everyone was thinking about the message on the floor. The Chamber of Secrets has been opened. ... One day, Harry, Ron, and Hermione were walking to their herbology class. They passed the place where Mrs. Norris, Filch's cat, was found. The floor was clean now, but Harry still felt cold when he passed it. During herbology, they were repotting mandrakes. Professor Sprout, their teacher, gave everyone small earmuffs. "Everyone must put on their earmuffs," she said loudly. "The cry of a baby mandrake can knock you out." Harry looked at the small, ugly plant in his pot. It was green and crying loudly. He carefully took it out of its small pot. The mandrake kicked its little legs and screamed. Even with the earmuffs, Harry could hear a little of the sound. It was very unpleasant. After class, their hands were dirty, and they were tired. They walked back to the castle for lunch. On the way, a group of Slytherin students passed them. Draco Malfoy, a boy with blonde hair and a mean face, smiled at Harry. "Be careful, Potter," Malfoy said. "You might be next. The heir of Slytherin doesn't like mudbloods." He said the last word with hate. Hermione's face became pale. Ron looked angry. "Don't listen to him, Hermione," Ron said. But Hermione looked worried. "What does mudblood mean?" she asked. Ron explained quietly. "It's a very bad name for a witch or wizard with non-magic parents. Like you, it's a dirty word. Only people like Malfoy use it." Harry felt angry. He wanted to fight Malfoy, but Hermione stopped him. "It's not worth it, Harry," she said. Few days later, Harry was late for a Quidditch practice. He was running alone through an empty corridor on the second floor. Suddenly, he stopped. He heard a voice, a cold, angry voice that made the hair on his arms stand up. Harry looked around. There was no one there. "Hello?" he said. His voice echoed in the empty hall. The voice came again. "So hungry for a long time." "Who's there?" Harry asked, feeling scared. But there was no answer. Only the voice continued, moving away from him. "I smell blood. I smell blood." The voice disappeared. Harry stood alone, his heart beating fast. He ran to the Quidditch field as fast as he could. Later in the Gryffindor common room, Harry told Ron and Hermione about the voice. "Maybe you imagined it," Ron said, eating a chocolate frog. Hermione looked thoughtful. "Did you see anyone? A ghost, maybe?" "No one," Harry said. The hall was completely empty. The next morning, the whole school was talking about new news. Another attack had happened. This time it was a person, Colin Creevey, a first-year student in Gryffindor. Colin always followed Harry with his camera. Now he was in the hospital wing, like a stone. He couldn't move or speak. People looked at Harry with fear when he passed. They remembered he was near the first attack too. Whispers followed him in the halls. Why is everyone looking at me? Harry asked Ron at breakfast. Ron looked uncomfortable. Well, some people think, that you are the heir of Slytherin. But that's stupid, Harry said angrily. People are scared, Hermione said quietly. When people are scared, they don't think clearly. That afternoon, they had a party for Nearly Headless Nick, the Gryffindor ghost. But the party was not happy. Everyone was thinking about Colin and the Chamber of Secrets. Harry stood near the wall, drinking pumpkin juice. He saw that many students were moving away from him. They didn't want to stand near him. He felt alone and different. Why could he hear the voice when no one else could? Why did these bad things happen when he was near? He looked out the window at the dark sky. He felt that the answer was close, but he couldn't see it. Chapter 6. The Diary of Tom Riddle. The days became colder. More students looked at Harry with suspicious eyes. He felt like a stranger in his own school. One evening, Harry, Ron, and Hermione were in the library. They were looking for information about the Chamber of Secrets. Hermione had many big, old books on the table. Look, she said, pointing to a book. It says here that the Chamber of Secrets was built by Salazar Slytherin, one of the 4 founders of Hogwarts. He wanted a school only for pure-blood students, students from magical families. Ron looked confused. But how do we find the chamber? And what is the monster inside? Another book had an answer. The monster is a basilisk, Hermione read. A giant snake. It can kill people with its look, but spiders and roosters are its enemies. Spiders run away from it, and the sound of a rooster can kill it. Harry remembered something. The spiders. I saw them running out of the castle. Ron, who was very afraid of spiders, looked sick. Don't talk about spiders, he said. But they still didn't know who opened the chamber or where the entrance was. The next day was a Hogsmeade weekend. Students could visit the magical village near the school. But Harry couldn't go because his uncle didn't sign the permission form. He was alone in the castle. He walked through the empty halls. He felt lonely and sad. He decided to visit Moaning Myrtle, the ghost who lived in the girls' bathroom on the 2nd floor. Myrtle was crying as usual. No one comes to see me. No one remembers me, she cried. Harry talked to her for a few minutes. When he was leaving, he saw something small and black on the wet floor. It was a book, an old black diary. He picked it up. The name on the cover was T.M. Riddle. Harry opened it. The pages were empty. No one had written in it. That night in his dormitory, Harry looked at the diary. Why was it empty? He took a quill and wrote, "Hello." The ink disappeared into the page. Harry was surprised. Then, new words appeared on the page. "Hello, my name is Tom Riddle. Who are you?" Harry was shocked. The diary was talking back to him. He wrote, "I'm Harry Potter." The words disappeared. For a long time, nothing happened. Then, new words appeared, slowly. Harry Potter, it is a pleasure to meet you. Harry and the diary talked for hours. Tom Riddle was a student at Hogwarts 50 years ago. He was a prefect and a brilliant student. Harry wrote, "Do you know about the Chamber of Secrets?" The words on the page changed quickly. "Yes, I can show you what happened 50 years ago." The diary began to glow. The pages started to turn very fast. Harry felt dizzy. The world around him began to spin. Suddenly, He wasn't in his dormitory anymore. He was standing in the headmaster's office. But it was different. A younger Dumbledore was there, and a boy named Tom Riddle was talking to him. It was a memory. In the memory, Riddle was asking about an attack on a student. The monster attacked a girl, Professor Dumbledore. They say a student called Hagrid opened the chamber. Harry watched as young Riddle blamed Hagrid, the friendly gamekeeper of Hogwarts. The memory ended, and Harry was back in his bed, holding the diary. He was very confused. Hagrid would never hurt anyone. But Tom Riddle seemed like a nice, honest student. The next day, Harry told Ron and Hermione about the diary and the memory. Hagrid? No, impossible, Ron said. Hermione looked at the diary with suspicion. Harry, how can a diary show you memories? It's very strange magic. And why was it in the bathroom? I think you should be careful. But Harry was curious. He wanted to know more. That night, he wrote in the diary again. Tom, who really opened the Chamber of Secrets 50 years ago. The words appeared slowly. I know who did it, but I can only show you. Come into the diary again. Harry hesitated for a moment. Then he touched the page. The world began to spin again. He was falling into the diary, into Tom Riddle's memory. He didn't know if it was safe, but he needed to know the truth. Chapter 7. The Heir of Slytherin. Harry felt like he was falling through time. When he opened his eyes, he was no longer in his dormitory. He was standing in a large, circular room, the headmaster's office, but 50 years in the past. A young man with black hair and handsome features stood near the desk. It was Tom Riddle, but he looked solid and real, not like a memory. Welcome, Harry Potter, Tom Riddle said. His voice was smooth and calm. I have been waiting for you. Where are we? Harry asked, looking around. The office looked different, younger, like Professor Dumbledore's. We are in my memory, Riddle explained. But I am not just a memory. I am a piece of Tom Riddle's soul preserved in this diary. Harry didn't understand completely, but he felt uneasy. You said you would show me who opened the Chamber of Secrets. Riddle smiled, but it wasn't a friendly smile. I did. But first, let me show you something else. He walked to a large cabinet and took out a beautiful, heavy book. This is the school record from my time. Look, he opened the book to a specific page. There was a list of names from 50 years ago. Harry saw Tom Marvolo Riddle and Rubeus Hagrid. Hagrid was expelled from Hogwarts, Riddle said calmly. They said he opened the Chamber of Secrets. But that's not the truth. Then what is the truth? Harry asked, feeling confused. Riddle's eyes gleamed. I opened the Chamber of Secrets, Harry. I am the heir of Slytherin. Harry stepped back. You? But why? To purify Hogwarts, Riddle said, his voice becoming stronger. Harry felt cold fear. But the attack stopped 50 years ago. Why are they happening again now? Riddle's smile widened. Because someone found my diary. A young, impressionable girl. She has been writing in it, sharing all her secrets with me, and I have been influencing her. Suddenly, Harry understood. Ginny Weasley has your diary. Very good, Harry, Riddle said. Little Ginny wrote in the diary about her fears, her crush on you, her family, and I comforted her. I became her friend. And then I started to use her. I made her open the chamber again. I made her write the messages on the walls. I made her attack the students. Harry felt angry. "You're controlling her. Where is she?" "Oh, she's in the Chamber of Secrets," Riddle said casually. "My monster is keeping her there. Soon, she will have no life force left. She will die, and I will become fully alive again, through her energy." As Riddle spoke, Harry noticed something strange happening. Riddle was becoming more solid, more real, while the world around them was getting fuzzy. "You see, Harry," Riddle continued, "I have been drinking Ginny's life for months. Every time she wrote in the diary, she gave me a little more of her soul. Now I am almost strong enough to leave this diary forever." Harry looked at the handsome young man in front of him. "Who are you, really?" he whispered. Riddle's face changed. It became colder, more dangerous. "Let me show you." He took out his wand and wrote in the air with fiery letters, "Tom Marvolo Riddle." Then he waved his wand again, and the letters rearranged themselves. "I am Lord Voldemort." Harry stared, unable to breathe. "You? You're Voldemort?" "The same," Riddle said proudly. "I created this diary as a weapon, as a way to return to power. And you, Harry Potter, have helped me by bringing me here to Hogwarts." The room began to shake. Harry felt the memory starting to collapse around him. "Ginny is dying, Harry," Riddle said. "If you want to save her, you must find the Chamber of Secrets. But you will be too late. My monster will kill you both." Harry felt himself being pulled back to the present. The last thing he saw was Tom Riddle's triumphant smile. He woke up on his bed in Gryffindor Tower, clutching the diary. He knew what he had to do. He had to find Ron and Hermione. He had to save Ginny before it was too late. Chapter 8: Hermione's Discovery. Harry ran as fast as he could through the dark corridors. He needed to find Ron and Hermione immediately. "Ron, Hermione," Harry said, breathing heavily. "I know who took Ginny. It's Tom Riddle." Ron stood up quickly, his face white. What are you talking about?" Harry showed them the black diary. "This diary, it's not normal. It's magic. Tom Riddle is inside it. He's been controlling Ginny through the diary. He made her open the Chamber of Secrets." Hermione took the diary carefully. "This is very dark magic, Harry. I've read about things like this. They're called Horcruxes. But that's very advanced magic." "I don't care what it's called," Ron said, his voice shaking. "Where is my sister? What did he do to her?" Harry explained everything. Riddle said Ginny is in the Chamber of Secrets. She's dying. He's taking her life force to become real again. Tears were in Ron's eyes. "We have to tell a teacher. We have to find her." "But we don't know where the chamber is," Hermione said, trying to stay calm. "We've been looking for months and found nothing." Just then, they heard loud footsteps. Professor McGonagall entered the common room. Her face was very serious. "Another student has been attacked," she announced. "Everyone must return to their dormitories immediately. The school is going on lockdown." Panic filled the room. Students started talking loudly. "Who was attacked, Professor?" someone asked. Professor McGonagall took a deep breath. "It's Hermione Granger." Harry and Ron froze. They looked around. Hermione wasn't with them anymore. They didn't notice when she left. "No," Ron shouted, "not Hermione too." Harry felt like he couldn't breathe. First Ginny, now Hermione. This was all his fault. As everyone moved to their dormitories, Harry pulled Ron aside. "We can't wait for the teachers. We have to find the chamber now." "But how?" Ron asked, crying. Hermione was the smart one. She always knew what to do. Then Harry remembered something. Wait, before she was attacked. Hermione was researching something in the library. Maybe she found something. They sneaked out of the common room and ran to the library. Madame Pince, the librarian, wasn't there. They went to the table where Hermione always sat. There on the table was a book about magical creatures. A piece of paper was sticking out of it. Harry opened the book and found Hermione's notes. "Look," Harry said. "Hermione wrote something." Ron read the note, his hands shaking. "Myrtle's bathroom. That's where you found the diary." "And pipes," Harry said excitedly. "I've been hearing the voice in the walls." "The basilisk has been moving through the pipes." They looked at each other with new hope. They knew where to go now. "But how do we get into the chamber?" Ron asked. Harry thought about the message on the wall. "Enemies of the air, beware." And he remembered something else. He could talk to snakes. The language was called Parseltongue. "The heir of Slytherin can talk to snakes," Harry said, "and I can too. Maybe the entrance only opens if you speak to it in Parseltongue." They ran through the empty halls toward Myrtle's bathroom. They didn't know what they would find there, but they knew they had to try. They had to save Ginny and Hermione. They were running out of time. Chapter 9. Into the Chamber. Harry and Ron ran through the dark, empty corridors. The castle was silent and scary at night. Their footsteps echoed on the stone floors. They reached the girls' bathroom on the second floor. Moaning Myrtle was floating near the ceiling, crying as usual. "Oh, it's you," she said when she saw Harry. "Have you come to visit me again?" "Myrtle, we need your help," Harry said, breathing heavily. "We think the entrance to the Chamber of Secrets is in this bathroom." Myrtle stopped crying and looked interested. "Really? How exciting!" Ron was looking around the bathroom. "But where? It's just a normal bathroom. ... Harry remembered Hermione's note. "The basilisk moves through pipes. Look for something with snakes on it." They searched the bathroom. Then Ron pointed to one of the sinks. "Harry, look at this one." It was an old sink that nobody used. Around the tap, there was a small carving of a snake. It was almost invisible unless you looked very closely. "This is it," Harry said excitedly. "But how do we open it?" "Maybe you have to talk to it," Ron suggested. "You know, in Parseltongue." Harry looked at the small snake carving. He concentrated hard. He tried to remember how he felt when he talked to snakes before. He opened his mouth, and strange hissing sounds came out. "Open," he hissed. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the sink began to shake. The pipes made loud, groaning noises. The sink moved sideways and disappeared into the floor, revealing a very large, dark hole. It was a tunnel, wide enough for a person to slide down. It was dark and smelled bad. "Well," Ron said, taking a deep breath. "Here goes nothing." Ron went first. He sat on the edge of the hole and pushed himself forward. He disappeared into the darkness. Harry heard him sliding down. Harry looked at Myrtle. "If we don't come back, tell someone what happened." Then he followed Ron into the hole. It was a long, wet, dirty slide. Harry slid down for what felt like minutes. The tunnel went down, down, down into the earth. Finally, he landed on something soft and wet. "Ugh," he said, standing up. "What is this?" "It's bones," Ron said, his voice shaking. "Animal bones. And other things." They were in a large, dark tunnel. The floor was covered with bones and dirt. The air was cold and smelled like rotten eggs. They started walking through the tunnel. It was so dark they could barely see. Harry took out his wand. Lumos, he said, and the tip of his wand lit up, creating a small circle of light. They walked for a long time. The tunnel went on and on. They passed many skeletons of small animals. Then they saw something much bigger, the skin of a giant snake, shed like a sweater. "It's huge," Ron whispered, his eyes wide with fear. Finally, they reached a wall, but it wasn't a normal wall. It was a solid wall of rock, and in the middle were two snakes carved from stone. Their emerald eyes seemed to glow in the dark. "This must be the entrance to the chamber," Harry said. He concentrated again and spoke in Parseltongue. "Open." The two stone snakes separated, and the wall began to move. It split down the middle, and the two halves slid apart silently. They entered a very long, dim chamber. The ceiling was so high they couldn't see it. Stone snakes carved into pillars seemed to watch them as they walked. At the far end of the chamber, they could see a giant statue of an old man with a long beard, Salazar Slytherin, and there, on the wet floor in front of the statue, lay a small figure with red hair. "Ginny," Ron cried, and ran to his sister. Ginny was lying still, her face pale and white. She wasn't moving. Ron knelt beside her, crying, "Ginny, wake up! Please wake up!" Harry put his hand on her wrist. "She's still warm. She's alive, but just barely." Then a voice spoke from the shadows. "She won't wake up." Tom Riddle stepped out from behind a pillar. He was no longer a memory. He was almost completely solid and real. "You're too late, Harry Potter," Riddle said with a cold smile. "Ginny is almost dead. And when she dies, I will be completely alive again." He looked at Harry with hate in his eyes. "And now, it's time to finish what I started 16 years ago. It's time to kill Harry Potter. Speak to me, Slytherin, greatest of the Hogwarts Four." The mouth of the statue began to open. Something huge was moving inside it. Harry and Ron watched in horror as the basilisk began to come out of the statue's mouth. They were trapped in the Chamber of Secrets with a monster, and Ginny was dying. Chapter 10: The Battle in the Chamber. The basilisk came out of the statue's mouth slowly. It was enormous, the biggest snake Harry had ever seen. Its body was thick and green, and its scales shone in the dark chamber. Harry knew he couldn't look at its eyes. "Don't look at its eyes, Ron," Harry shouted. "It will kill you." The basilisk moved toward them, its body sliding across the stone floor. It opened its mouth, showing long, sharp fangs. Yellow poison dripped from them. Ron was holding Ginny's hand, looking terrified. "What do we do, Harry?" Tom Riddle laughed. "There's nothing you can do, Harry Potter. This is the end for you." Suddenly, there was a loud sound from above. Something was flying down from the high ceiling. It was Fawkes, Dumbledore's phoenix. In his claws, he carried something ragged and dirty. Fawkes flew to Harry and dropped the thing at his feet. It was the old Sorting Hat. Riddle stopped laughing. "A bird and an old hat? This is your help, Potter?" How pathetic. But Harry felt hope. Dumbledore had sent help. The basilisk was getting closer. Harry closed his eyes and tried to listen for the snake. He could hear its heavy body moving on the stones. "Harry!" Ron shouted. "It's coming toward you! Left side!" Harry jumped to the right, just as the basilisk struck where he had been standing. He kept his eyes closed, fighting blindly. Fawkes flew in front of the basilisk's face. The great snake turned its attention to the bird. Fox flew around its head, confusing it. "Now, Harry," Ron yelled. "The hat!" Harry picked up the sorting hat. He put it on his head, just like he did in his first year. "Help me," Harry thought. "I need a weapon." A heavy weight suddenly appeared on his head. Something long and sharp was coming out of the hat. Harry reached up and pulled. It was a beautiful silver sword, the sword of Gryffindor. Now Harry had a chance. He held the sword with both hands. The basilisk was still trying to catch Fawkes. But then something terrible happened. The basilisk turned quickly and bit Fawkes. The bird cried out in pain. But instead of dying, Fawkes burst into flames and disappeared. Phoenixes don't die, they are reborn from their ashes. However, now Harry had no protection. The basilisk turned its attention back to him. "Behind you, Harry!" Ron screamed. Harry turned, but he was too slow. The basilisk struck fast and bit Harry's arm. Harry felt a terrible burning pain. One of the snake's fangs was stuck deep in his arm. He fell to his knees, dropping the sword. The pain was unbelievable. He could feel the poison moving through his body. Riddle walked closer, smiling. "You're dying, Harry Potter. The basilisk's poison is very powerful. There is no cure." Harry looked at Ginny, who was still lying on the floor. He looked at Ron's terrified face. He looked at Tom Riddle's proud smile. He couldn't give up. With all his strength, Harry pulled the fang out of his arm. Blood and poison poured from the wound. He was getting weaker. Then he saw it. The basilisk was coming for one last attack. It was moving slowly now, ready to finish him. As the snake came closer, Harry saw his chance. When the basilisk opened its mouth to bite him, Harry used his last strength. He picked up the sword and pushed it up into the roof of the snake's mouth. The basilisk screamed in pain. It thrashed around wildly, then fell to the floor, dead. Harry fell back, exhausted and poisoned. He could feel his life leaving his body. Everything was getting dark. Ron was crying. "Harry, no, don't die." Tom Riddle was still smiling. "A brave try, Potter. But you're still dying. And Ginny is almost dead. I still win." But then Harry remembered something. The basilisk fang in his hand. It was still dripping with poison. And he remembered what Riddle had said about the diary. He looked at the black diary lying near Riddle's feet with his last bit of strength. Harry lifted the fang and stabbed it into the diary. There was a terrible scream, not from Riddle, but from the diary itself. Black ink poured from the hole like blood. Riddle began to fade, becoming transparent. "No," Riddle screamed. "This is impossible." He looked at Harry with shock and hate. Then he disappeared completely, like smoke in the wind. The diary was destroyed, but Harry was still dying. The poison was working fast. He lay on the cold stone floor, unable to move. Then he felt something warm on his face. Tears were falling on his wound. But they weren't his tears. Fawkes had returned. The phoenix was crying on Harry's arm. The tears felt magical. The pain started to go away. The wound began to close. Harry could feel strength returning to his body. Fawkes had healed him with his tears. Harry sat up, breathing heavily. He was alive. Ron ran to him, crying and laughing at the same time. "You're alive! Harry, you're alive!" And then from across the chamber, they heard a small voice. Ron? Harry? Ginny was waking up. Chapter 11. Reunion and Explanations. Ginny sat up slowly, rubbing her eyes. She looked confused and scared. What happened? Where am I? Ron ran to his sister and hugged her tightly. Ginny, you're awake. You're safe now. Ginny looked around the dark chamber. She saw the dead basilisk and her eyes widened in fear. The monster! It was here! And Tom! Tom was here too. Harry walked over to them, still feeling weak but getting stronger from Fawkes's tears. It's okay, Ginny. The basilisk is dead, and Tom Riddle is gone forever. Ginny started to cry. I'm so sorry. It was me. I opened the Chamber of Secrets. I wrote those messages on the walls. I attacked those students. Harry put a hand on her shoulder. No, Ginny, it wasn't you. It was Tom Riddle, controlling you through the diary. Ginny shook her head, tears streaming down her face. But I wrote in the diary. I told him everything. I told him I was afraid of not being good enough for Hogwarts. I told him about my crush on you, Harry. I told him all my secrets. And then I started losing time. I would wake up in strange places with no memory of how I got there. Ron looked at his little sister with understanding. It wasn't your fault, Ginny. He was using you. Just then, Fawkes the Phoenix flew down and landed near them. He began to sing a beautiful, magical song. The sound filled the chamber and made them all feel warm and safe. What do we do now? Ron asked. How do we get out of here? Harry looked at Fawkes. I think our friend will help us. Fawkes flew over to Ginny and dropped a golden feather in her lap. Then he flew to Harry and nudged his hand with his head. I think he wants us to hold on to his tail feathers, Harry said. They all stood up. Harry picked up the sword of Gryffindor. Ron helped Ginny to her feet. They each held onto Fawkes's long, beautiful tail feathers. With a powerful flap of his wings, Fawkes lifted them into the air. They flew up, up, up through the dark chamber, past the stone pillars, and through the tunnels. The Phoenix's magic carried them safely back to Myrtle's bathroom. When they landed, Moaning Myrtle floated over to them. Oh, you're back. And you brought the girl. Was it exciting? Was it dangerous? Yes, Myrtle, Harry said. It was both. They left the bathroom and walked through the corridors. As they approached the main hallway, they heard voices. Professor McGonagall, Professor Dumbledore, and Mr. and Mrs. Weasley were there, looking worried. Mom, Dad, Ginny cried and ran into her parents' arms. Mrs. Weasley hugged her daughter tightly, crying. Ginny, our sweet girl, we were so worried. Mr. Weasley looked at Harry and Ron. What happened? How did you find her? Professor Dumbledore smiled kindly. I think we should go to my office. There's much to discuss. In Dumbledore's office, Harry told the whole story. He told them about finding the diary, talking to Tom Riddle, discovering the truth about the chamber, and the battle with the basilisk. When Harry showed them the destroyed diary with the fangs still in it, Professor McGonagall gasped. A Horcrux, she whispered. So dark, so dangerous. Dumbledore looked at Harry with pride. You have shown great courage tonight, Harry. And you too, Ron. You saved Ginny's life. Mrs. Weasley hugged both boys. Thank you for saving our daughter. But then Professor McGonagall looked serious. There is still the matter of you two breaking many school rules. Flying a car to school, leaving your dormitory after hours, going into the Chamber of Secrets. Dumbledore held up his hand. Minerva, I think we can make an exception. After all, they did save the school and a student's life. He turned to Harry. There's one thing I don't understand, Harry. How did you destroy the diary? Harry held up the basilisk fang. With this, I stabbed the diary with it after I killed the basilisk. Dumbledore's eyes twinkled. Very clever. Only something very powerful and magical could destroy a Horcrux. Basilisk venom is one of the few substances that can do it. Just then, the door opened and Hagrid entered, looking worried. I heard what happened. Is everyone all right? When he saw Harry and Ron, he smiled broadly. Harry, Ron, you did it. You solved the mystery. ... Harry smiled back. He was happy to see his friend. Everything was finally back to normal. Or almost normal. There was still one more surprise waiting for them. Chapter 12. Everything is good again. The next morning, the sun shone brightly through the windows of the hospital wing. Harry and Ron were sitting on beds, eating chocolate that Madame Pomfrey, the nurse, had given them. Eat all of it, Madame Pomfrey said kindly. It helps with the shock after bad magical events. Ginny was in the bed next to them, sleeping peacefully. Her color was back to normal, and she looked happy in her sleep. The door opened, and Hermione ran in. She was holding a big book and smiling widely. Hermione, Harry and Ron said together, jumping up from their beds. You're okay, Ron said, looking very relieved. Of course I'm okay, Hermione said. Madame Pomfrey gave me the mandrake potion this morning. All the petrified students are awake now. She hugged both of them tightly. I heard what you did. You were so brave. You went into the Chamber of Secrets and fought the basilisk. Harry smiled. We couldn't have done it without your notes, Hermione. You discovered the monster was a basilisk and that it moved through the pipes. Hermione looked proud. Well, I had to do something useful while I was petrified. Just then, Colin Creevey, the first-year student who had been petrified, came running into the hospital wing. He had his camera with him. Harry, Ron, can I take your picture? You're heroes, Colin said excitedly. Ron smiled for the camera, but Harry felt a little embarrassed. Later that day, they all went down to the Great Hall for the end-of-year feast. The hall was decorated in green and silver, the colors of Slytherin House, who had won the House Cup. Professor Dumbledore stood up to speak. Another year has ended, he began. And what a strange year it has been. But first, I have some last-minute points to give. Everyone became quiet. First, to Miss Hermione Granger, 50 points for using her excellent brain to discover the truth about the monster, even when she was in danger. A Gryffindor table cheered loudly. The points counter changed. Gryffindor, 312. Slytherin, 472. Second, to Mr. Ronald Weasley, 50 points for his loyalty to his friends and his courage in facing his greatest fear to help others. More cheers. Gryffindor, 362. Slytherin, 472. And finally to Mr. Harry Potter, 60 points for pure courage and fighting power in the face of great danger. The Gryffindors stood up, shouting and clapping. Gryffindor, 422. Slytherin, 472. But Dumbledore wasn't finished. There is one more thing. I think we should also give points for the great act of destroying a very dark magical object. So, another 100 points to Mr. Harry Potter. The hall exploded with noise. Gryffindor, 522. Slytherin, 472. Gryffindor had won the House Cup. The green decorations turned to red and gold, Banners with the Gryffindor lion appeared everywhere. The Gryffindor students were singing and dancing. Harry, Ron, and Hermione sat together, eating the delicious feast and laughing. They were happy and safe. The next day, it was time to go home. They packed their trunks and got on the Hogwarts Express. As the train moved through the beautiful countryside, they talked about their summer plans. "You'll write to me, won't you?" Harry asked his friends. "Every week," Hermione promised. Ron nodded. "And you're coming to stay with us, Harry. Mum already said yes." Harry smiled. He wasn't going back to a lonely summer with the Dursleys. He was going to the burrow with the Weasleys. He looked out the window at the passing fields and forests. He thought about the adventures of this year, the flying car, the diary, the Chamber of Secrets, the basilisk. It had been a dangerous year, but he had his friends with him. And next year would be different. No dark magic, no monsters, no danger. Or so he thought. But for now, he was happy. He was with his friends, going to a home where he was loved. The train moved faster, taking them toward new adventures. But that's a story for another time.